I cried or if I laughed, I just remember I want my money back. I can't remember if it sucked or if I had a blast. All I know is at the end of the show, when the credits rolled, it said Filmtopiacast 3000.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Filmtopiacast 3000. I'm your host, Greg McIver, and with me, as always, is
Nicky Boom Boom.
Nikki Boom Boom. On today's episode of Filmtopiacast 3000, we're going to talk about macrame, I think. You wanted to address that subject at one point, didn't you?
Well, it is something that's very dear to my heart.
Boom Boom is a macrame enthusiast.
I'm good.
He's better than good.
I'm good. Fight me IRL.
Indeed.
Do you even macrame?
Is that internet speak?
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. I need to brush up on that. Actually, we're going to talk about movies. We saw some movies recently, and we saw some trailers for movies recently that we're excited about. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. Nick, what did you see recently in the theaters?
It's a little, it's not a new film, but
Get out! I'm kidding.
I wanted to see it. It's a Disney movie called Wreck-It Ralph.
Ah, okay. Very cool, very cool. How was Wreck-It Ralph?
I liked it. It was exactly what I thought it was gonna be. It was a silly little movie. If you got kids, and your kids like video games like they all do, which isn't a bad thing, it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Then it's a great thing to see. It's basically it's if you don't know, it's takes place in video game world in a specific arcade, which, you know, R.I.P. arcades because they don't actually exist anymore.
Okay.
Or very, very few do.
Indeed.
But so John C. Reilly voices Wreck-It Ralph, who is the villain of a game called Fix-It Felix, in which he appears from his dump, his home in the dump, and smashes up a very nice building while going, "I'm gonna wreck it!" And
nice.
And smashes up the building, and then Fix-It Felix comes in with his magic hammer that he got from his father, because it's Fix-It Felix Jr., implying that this is a sequel.
Oh no, this is a sequel to something.
And then Fix-It Felix will fix up the all the damage that Ralph has done while Ralph throws barrels and debris down at him. So that's the game. That's their like day in, day out, and the whole thing is based on the premise that like they're not actually mad at each other. That's the programming, and it has that same kind of feel of like those cartoons where like Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog would punch clocks and be like, "Hey Mac, hey, how you doing?"
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so of course Wreck-It Ralph being our protagonist, he's very sad and very tired of being a bad guy and being like not invited to all the cool parties in video game world.
Right.
That the residents of the building that he smashes up they throw. He never gets invited inside the building. He has to go sleep in his dump.
Aw, poor guy.
And so he tries to crash a party for the 30th anniversary of Fix-It Felix rather. And of course it's a big mess. He smashes up the party by accident because that's just kind of what he does.
Absolutely.
And so he decides that because at the end of every level, what happens is and Fix-It Felix, by the way, is voiced by Jack McBrayer, who plays Kenneth the Intern on 30 Rock.
Oh, nice.
And it's really great because he just has this like real genuine like, "Oh, I'm a nice guy, and I'm so completely ignorant of how badly we're treating you" type of character to him. The movie's really well cast in that way.
Nice.
And so every level ends with them like the villagers like throwing Wreck-It Ralph off the building into a big puddle of mud, and them giving a big medal to Fix-It Felix. So he decides like, well, if I want to be recognized as a good guy, I got to go get a medal somewhere. And he sneaks into other games and tries to win them in order to win a medal, so he can go back and rub it in the people's faces, basically.
Okay.
And along the way, he encounters because you're not supposed to go outside of one of the rules they set up early on is like, don't go outside of your game, because if you die outside of your game, you're dead for real.
Oh.
And so like he goes into he sneaks into a Space Marine game.
Nice.
Full of like violent, horrible aliens, and tries to win the medal there. And encounters a really tough commando girl voiced by Jane Lynch from
Nice.
From Glee and from all the
Christopher Guest movies.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then eventually ends up, and kind of this whole second half of the movie takes place in I forget the name of the game, but it's basically like Mario Kart for girls, it's like a very girly, sugary candy environment. It's like Candyland mixed with Mario Kart is the game that he ends up in.
Candy Kart?
It might even be that. I'm not sure. And his gold medal that he ends up stealing from another game ends up being used as a entry fee to one of the races. And the whole second half of the movie is concerned with him getting it back. And the person who kind of grifts him and then he ends up forming a friendship with is voiced by Sarah Silverman.
Okay.
And her name is Vanellope von Schweetz.
Vanellope von Schweetz. Wow.
And she's supposed to be one of the racers in this game, but she's a glitch. And so nobody wants her to play because if the players in the arcade see her glitching, they're not going to want to play the game. And so they kind of treat her in a way that the villagers in Ralph's game treat him. So they end up bonding over being misfits, and it's, it's a nice little like, let's be pals, even though nobody else.
Nice.
Nobody else likes us. We're just doing just fine with each other, type of thing.
Okay.
Happening here. It's a nice little message for the movie. It's a fun little cartoon.
Nice.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay, no, nothing wrong with that. It's been very popular. Everyone that I've talked to that has seen it has liked it. Are there any recognizable video game characters in it?
Yes, there are. And one thing that was really super annoying was that they put Sonic the Hedgehog all over their advertisements.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if any of you guys were walking by a movie theater and you saw, like, Wreck-It Ralph, and Ralph wouldn't even be on the poster. It'd be, like, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
And he's of course, he's in it for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
They're the most, the part where there's the most recognizable game characters is, one part that's seen in the previews, which is when Ralph goes to his group therapy meeting for bad guys, in which M. Bison and the Orange Ghost from Pac-Man and a few fictional people, but like or they're all fictional, I suppose, but a couple made up for the movies.
M. Bison is real. What are you talking about?
Oh, and then they put Zangief in that group too, which when I saw that I was like, Zangief's not a bad guy. Yeah, he's kind of bored. I guess he's Russian, and when the game came out, the Cold War was still happening, so I guess maybe he's a bad guy, but I'm a pretty hardcore Street Fighter fan. I never saw Zangief as a villain.
I don't know. He's a big, scary-looking, mostly Russian dude, so it's not necessarily the first guy you'd like to take out for coffee, but...
That's true. Oh, and Q*bert is in the game quite a bit.
Okay.
They have kind of like the nexus of all the games is kind of this Grand Central terminal type area.
Okay.
And it actually looks exactly like it's modeled after Grand Central Station. And one of the people out begging for coins or video game food was Q*bert, because they're down on their luck and they don't really get sequels anymore.
That's sad. Let's give Q*bert a sequel.
But some really good voice talent happening too. Outside of the people I mentioned, I didn't realize until the credits, but Alan Tudyk plays a really heavy part in the movie.
Oh wow, cool.
You may know him as Wash from Firefly or as Pirate Steve from Dodgeball.
Totally.
He's great, and I'm firmly of the opinion that kids need the crap frightened out of them at an early age.
Yes.
It happened to me. It happened to most of my friends.
Happened to me as well. Yeah.
I think it'll happen by accident. Even if you don't.
It's going to happen at some point. Why fight it?
But, like in Willy Wonka with the scary tunnel.
Yes.
Or the one that got me the most as a kid was is actually in a movie called The Last Unicorn.
Okay.
There was a big scary Red Bull and
as in the drink?
Well, I think that they named the drink after that, maybe.
Oh. Okay.
There's a scary Red Bull and a scary skeleton that wanted to drink. Kids need to be scared, and there's a really scary part in this where, or if you're a kid, it probably would be, where the aliens from the Commando game, it's established early on that they can take the features of anything that they clamp onto,
Okay.
and they end up in the Candyland, um,
Oh my.
creating some like really like interesting combinations. So
Interesting.
So yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. I enjoyed it very much.
Take your kids to see it and have them get the crap scared out of them.
Scare the crap out of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it sounds like a good time. I'll probably check it out when it comes on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said before, everyone that I've talked to has really liked this movie. So thumbs up for Wreck-It Ralph. Well, we're not doing a thumbs up, thumbs down thing. But let's. We recommend Wreck-It Ralph, or at least Nicky Boom Boom does. I saw 2 movies recently. Just last week, actually. I saw Killing Them Softly, the new Brad Pitt movie, which was directed by him, who had directed previously The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Is that the full name?
Yes.
Really?
It's one of the longest movie titles in history. And depending on who you talk to, that movie is either very boring or it's an absolutely ingenious film. I have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. But this is his follow-up American feature, and again featuring Brad Pitt, who was in that one as well. I didn't like that movie. It had a lot of really great black comedy to it at the beginning, which was fantastic. But here's the thing with it. The story is Andrew Dominik. Thank you. Andrew Dominik is the director. Nick got me on backup here with his new phone.
I got a smartphone finally.
He got a smartphone finally. So smartphone support. Basically, the story of Killing Them Softly is these 2 bumbling crooks are hired to knock over a mob-enforced card game that criminals take part in, and they steal all the money, and this quote-unquote cripples the criminal economy. And the whole movie, the story takes place at the same time as our national economy went into the toilet towards the end of the Bush administration.
Oh, so it's like a little parallel.
It's a little parallel. The thing is, that's all well and good, but they don't do anything with it, though. It's basically, okay, so supposedly the criminal economy collapses because we're told. I mean, we're not even told that it happens this time. Brad Pitt says that a card game got knocked over once before, and the economy of the criminal world was in shambles. They don't even say it was in shambles this time around, but I guess we're meant to assume that, I guess that's just what happens. So, A, that's kind of stupid. So we're meant to believe that these criminals just bring all of their money to the poker game, because the movie also goes to a great length to really hammer into your brains that the criminal world is a business. It's almost like a corporation, just like corporate America, and that's fine, and there is some truth to that to an extent. If that is in fact true, then these criminals obviously use banks then, and then they have investments, and they have their money tied up in cars and houses and stuff like that.
Offshore accounts.
Offshore accounts. I cannot believe for the life of me that one poker game gets knocked off, and all of a sudden the criminal economy is in shambles. But let's say for the sake of argument that it did happen. So you're going to have a nice little parallel between that and then the actual national economy going into the toilet. But they don't do anything with the whole idea of the criminal economy being collapsed. It's just they mention it, and then the story sort of continues, mainly focusing on the Brad Pitt character and then kind of going back to our 2 bumbling crooks. But there seems to be absolutely no reason for the comparison other than the fact that it's cute when you mention it.
Right.
But they don't do anything with it. Again, there's a lot of really good black comedy and some, nice, stylized violence. And that's all very fun and entertaining to watch, but just story-wise, it comes up short. I mean, you start out with our 2 bumbling crooks, who are very, very entertaining to listen to and watch. Then you kind of go away from them for a little bit, and then you get introduced to Brad Pitt's character, who is, again, quasi-entertaining to watch as well. And the dialogue between him and Richard Jenkins is entertaining. Then the movie just grinds to a friggin' halt when the character played by James Gandolfini gets introduced. I think his name is Mickey, I'm not sure. But anyway, James Gandolfini gets brought in. He's got 2 scenes in the movie, in the middle of this movie, where he just talks, and he talks, and he talks about basically, his life outside of the criminal world is in shambles. His wife wants to leave him. He's got a drinking problem. Ba 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 ba. This is all good character stuff, and had they done something with the character, made him an actual integral part of the plot, then some of this backstory might have paid off,
Right, because even in the preview, it seemed like they were setting him up to, like, I remember Brad Pitt saying, like, no, this is a two-man job, and insisting they bring in James Gandolfini. So
yeah.
With that sort of setup behind it, you kind of expect him to be playing, like, a big part, or be, like, the baddest man in the room.
Yeah, and he's not.
He's not.
Comes in for 2 scenes. Brad Pitt gets sick of listening to him and has him arrested, and we never see him again. That's it. That's it. That's all they do with him. So I just couldn't believe it. I was like, you wasted so much of my time having me listen to this guy just go on and on and on, and then you did nothing with him? I mean, if he was supposed to symbolize something, I missed it, and please, if somebody knows what James Gandolfini's character was supposed to symbolize in Killing Them Softly, that actually forwarded the plot at all, advanced the plot rather, please let me know, because I am completely amiss. And then the movie ends with Brad Pitt on a diatribe about how, America was founded on hypocrisy, and Thomas Jefferson, he wrote those, cool words, but, he was married to a slave, and she was still a slave, and he had slave babies, and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay, calm down, Clem Hopper. You're making an argument which is valid, but it's not a new argument. We've seen it in a ton of other movies, a ton of other TV shows. Hell, 5th graders are out there right now making the same argument in school for their class project. So you're not being daring by saying this, and it's a really odd way to end your film. I actually don't really like it when films end on a political diatribe. It just, I don't know, it just seems like blowing the wad. Like, this is really what you wanted to say with this movie, right? You've just been kind of saving it up. Now you just can't resist anymore.
Right. And, I mean, I didn't see it, so I don't know. But to me, from what you've said, it's like, I wanted a fun gangster movie out of this.
That's what I thought.
There's some fine actors involved, and it's like, why do you wrap your, like, half-baked political message in this seemingly very attractive shell of an awesome gangster movie?
It's an incredibly attractive shell. Again, the moments of black comedy are great. The performances are fantastic. And I wouldn't have even minded the political content as long as they were willing to do something with it. But it just sort of sits there staring at you like some dumb thing, just like, hi, I'm the political content. Don't touch. It was very frustrating. Had they made a fun, dark, stylized gangster film that, without the political commentary, but, had some good pacing and some, good resolution of character and story arcs, that would have been fine. It would have been a fantastic film, but they kind of bet, all their money on this one idea, and it just doesn't work. And so, very frustrating movie in the end. I do not recommend Killing Them Softly.
It's disappointing. I was looking forward to it. I might still,
You should check it out.
Yeah.
I say I don't recommend it, but at the same time, I will very rarely say you shouldn't see this movie, because I think most movies deserve to be given a chance. So, check it out.
Yeah, I like Ray Liotta. I really like Richard Jenkins.
Ray Liotta's fantastic in this. So is Richard Jenkins. Everybody does a great job in this movie.
Sam Shepard's in it.
Sam Shepard's in it for 5 minutes. Bad. Yeah, no, they're fine performances. It's just a really weak story that does not pay off. So. Yeah, do not recommend Killing Them Softly. One that I saw shortly after that was a movie called Anna Karenina.
Ah, yeah? That's how that's pronounced?
Anna Karenina.
Oh, based off of the book Anna Karenina.
Yes, absolutely. By Leo Tolstoy. No, I'm kidding. Leo Tolstoy. Starring Keira Knightley and Jude Law and a bunch of other people that I've never seen before, but they're all really good in it. It's directed by the gentleman that did the movie Atonement and written by some playwright named Tom Stoppard. Stoppard? How are we pronouncing that these days?
Actually, I don't know. He's probably he's in my top 3 favorite playwrights, and actually don't know which way that's supposed to be pronounced. I think it's Stoppard.
Stoppard?
I think. I don't know.
So Tom Stoppard wrote this
I say
movie.
Tom Stoppard.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged, whatever.
Anyway, he wrote this movie, and I also very much like Tom Stoppard. I've actually really only read one of his plays, though, but it was Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which you introduced me to, which is a fantastic play if you've never read it, and was made into a very funny movie written and directed by Tom Stoppard.
Oh, he did direct that, yeah.
Yep, he did direct it, starring Tim Roth and Gary Oldman as the title characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Very, very funny movie and enjoyable. You should definitely check it out.
Joe Wright directed this.
Joe Wright directed...
Atonement.
Oh, yes, Joe Wright directed Atonement and Anna Karenina.
Oh, just say it.
Anna Karenina. That good?
I don't know. Is that really? Yeah, I guess that is how you say it.
Yeah, I know. I always thought it was Anna Karina, but there's an extra.
There is
N
an extra.
There's an extra N in there, and it trips you up. So this movie was interesting. It was very cool to watch because the whole movie takes place on a stage, like literally a stage. And so, like, as people are talking and acting through the story, like, set pieces are being moved, and sometimes the camera will go close in on characters and then pull back, and they're in a completely different setting than when they started out with. Or it'll even be more obvious than that, like, a character will be in a house, like, in the middle of the city, and then will open the door and walk out into the middle of a giant field, out in the country, So there's no linear time and space happening with this film. It all kind of gets bunched together, and I think the reason they did that was because, again, this is a movie based off of a work by Leo Tolstoy, who is a very satisfying writer once you sit down and you think about what you've just read, but man, is it hard to get through.
Makes you work for it.
It makes you work for it. It's very laborious material. So I think they recognized it when they wanted to do it, and they recognized it was a good story there, but they recognized, okay, it's Tolstoy. He's a lot of work. We need to make this interesting for the audience, though, because otherwise we're just doing a masterpiece theater. So I think that's what the stage presentation of it was really for, was to to kind of keep the audience engaged and keep a good pace of the story going, and it does succeed in doing that. I guess my only problem with it is, like, okay, it serves to make the movie more watchable, and that's great, but the actual staging and then time, space not existing doesn't actually serve the story, though. There's really no reason for it other than to solve a problem, and it does solve the problem, but aside from that, and I'm not 100% certain if that's a strong enough reason to include something like that in a movie. I mean, I don't know. For me, it worked. Like, I watched the movie. I was entertained. Everyone did a great job. Keira Knightley was fine. Jude Law in particular was excellent in the movie, and a bunch of other actors in it whose names are escaping me, and I've honestly
perhaps are more well-known, like English theater people,
possibly well-known English theater people or English television stars, but they all did a fantastic job. So Anna Karenina, I'd recommend it. It's I don't think it's not the greatest film I've ever seen. I think there are worse ways you can spend your time at the movies. Again, it's visually stunning, and the performers all did a fine job. So yeah, it's not a bad flick. I would say check it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, I did grill you on this already, but I wanted to confirm again. Now, being that it's a work of Russian literature.
Yes.
Everyone's gonna have like 5 names.
Everyone has a minimum of 5 names. You're getting off easy with Anna Karenina. It's I think there's like 3 more names stuffed in there somewhere. It's and again, I think this is another reason why they needed this lavish staging and visual, because you're gonna get lost just by trying to keep track of all these names. It's like, I honestly. Thank God for cameras in movies. Thank God you can see things in films, because, quite frankly, I couldn't really keep track of who was who other than Keira Knightley's character. And thank God, a lot of times when they would call out somebody's name, there would be like a half a second where I'm like, who's she talking about? But then the camera would go to that person. I'm like, oh, it's that person. Thank God.
If you have no idea what we're talking about here, basically, if you've never read or seen... If you've not been exposed to Russian like literature or anything like, basically everyone, and this is a thing in Latin culture too, because I have Latina and Latino friends who they'll have like 5 names, but they're just called one name.
Right.
Like their family usually like our friend Mario.
Yeah.
I think he has like 5 names, but everyone just calls him Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he's in the States, he just goes by one last name, and the rest is just kind of like extra.
Yeah.
But not in Russia.
Nope. No.
In Russia, they may call you any one of those names, and you're meant to respond. And they might call you a diminutive nickname version of one of those names.
Yes, at any given time. You gotta be on your toes in Russia, or you're gonna get left behind. Again, and that's what was so confusing because Jude Law has a very long Russian name, but he was called variations of that throughout the entire movie. I am blanking on the name because it's very long and complicated, but
like let's say for example his name was like Andrejvik. They might call him like Vic, or somebody else might call him like Andre.
Right.
Or Andreevi.
Yes, but that's just one of the names that's in his name though. So Andre, Vicky, it's like it could be
Vicky
anything.
Cristina Barcelona.
Vicky Cristina Barcelona. That's easier to remember than some of these names.
Get your shit together, Russia.
Indeed. Yeah, very, very complicated nomenclature going on over there. But the movie is still worth taking a look at. So go check it out if you don't got nothing else to do and you've seen everything else in theaters. Let's see. We saw some trailers recently.
Yeah, the one that is freshest in my mind, I suppose, is the Man of Steel.
Yes, indeed, the Man of Steel.
Now, forgive me, Mr. Dalton. Superman's not my favorite comic book character.
Watch out! I'm sorry, his fist just came right through the computer and you dodged it right in time.
But you need him. Like,
yes,
he's kind of like Cyclops in the X-Men. It's like, well, I don't like Cyclops that much, but you need him. Like, he can't just go away. Like, you need Superman. And and I think we need Superman movies as well.
Well, he's sort of like the words. I mean,
well, especially Superman. Yeah, he's where it started.
Yeah, he's the big daddy of them all.
Yeah, he's the game changer. We wouldn't have all this. There'd be no Marvel comics even if not for Superman.
Right.
So
gotta give him his dues.
Much respect. And also, I guess my biggest fear when I heard Zack Snyder was coming on the project. I like Zack Snyder, but he does the stuff we've seen from him is like hyper violent.
Yes.
300 and Watchmen even.
So Superman grabbing people's throats and ripping them out.
Yeah, I don't want to see Superman punching holes through people. You gotta be true to Clark's Boy Scoutish character.
I think he is. I mean, from what we've seen from the trailer, it looks like they're doing that.
It looks like it, and it still looks like it's shot dark, and it looks like it's gonna be a little grittier than any Superman movie we've seen before. But it doesn't look like Superman's gonna be twisting people's necks and melting people with heat vision.
No, he's not gonna be doing that. It looks like the movie has a more serious and less, like you said, hyper stylized look than any of Zack Snyder's previous films.
Right.
Looks a bit more, like you said, down to earth.
That's true, actually. It doesn't look like a cartoon. Like.
No, it doesn't look like a cartoon. At least in most of the beginning scenes that we've seen. So. It'll be interesting to see because again in the trailer there's a lot of action that you see as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how he blends those two things together, the grittiness with the over the top action. Hopefully they can do a better job than what they did with The Dark Knight Rises. Not entirely hating on The Dark Knight Rises, but whatever, that movie had problems. Anyway,
we've been over that.
Yeah, we've been over that.
But yeah, no, I'm optimistic about it. It's got a good cast. I don't know who this kid is that's playing Superman.
The only thing I've ever seen him in was, I think it was Hellraiser 6, or it might have been 7.
Was he the toy maker?
No, he was not the toy maker. No, this was the really
This
was one of the really shitty Hellraisers that took place like. I don't know, it was about the internet, and, like, there was, like, because Hellraiser was, like, a popular online game in this movie and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there's a big, like, Hellraiser party and stuff like that, and it was stupid, but he's one of the guys that shows up at the party, and I think he ends up getting his head chopped off by Pinhead. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So Pinhead got Superman already.
Pinhead got Superman already. Your argument is invalid, Zack Snyder. I'm calling him Schneider. Is it Snyder or Schneider?
I think it's Snyder.
Snyder.
Yeah, we don't have a C or an H in there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Zack Snyder.
Snyder. And no, good cast going. We got Michael Shannon as Zod.
Yes.
That should be cool. We got
like and look at Zod. Yeah.
Costner as Pa Kent.
Perfect
That's
casting.
good. I think it was Diane Lane.
Diane Lane as Ma Kent. Yep. Russell Crowe as Jor-El, which I think is pretty fantastic. Don't know who they got.
Jor-El Javert.
Hey. Uma Oprah. Okay, no. So sorry. Yeah, no. It's very good casting. I think the casting of Costner as Pa Kent was absolutely genius.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
You're not gonna get any better than that. And I think Crowe as being sort of like on the opposite end of Costner, who is a very epic presence, is perfect for that father. So you've got a really good...
Yeah, you got your down-to-earth father, and you got your... Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I'm an epic leader of this planet father, type thing. So, perfect casting, in my opinion. And Mr. Shannon, I think, will do very well as Zod. You only see him for, like, a split second in the trailer, but I'm liking the look.
Is there a Lois Lane in this movie?
There is a Lois Lane in this movie. She is played by Amy Adams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's really attractive.
She's very, very attractive. I think they dyed her hair. I don't know. I mean, I know
well, they
Lois
should. Lois is
a brunette.
Yeah.
You only see her very briefly in the trailer, but yeah, Amy Adams. I think
Amy Adams is one of the things that got me through The Fighter.
Oh yeah,
wretched movie it was.
I forgot you had a little problem with The Fighter. All right, just cower for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, just
now one hit,
Turtle until you get your punch.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Which is apparently not how it happened in real life anyway.
No.
Okay. So that's it makes sense because it looks like that was really the only thing that Christian Bale's character could probably show him properly. Now just cower, let it wail on you for a little bit, and then look for your opening. Perfect. So yeah, no, she's a good actress and she's very pretty.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think she's too young to play Lois Lane?
Not how we have it set up here, and I think you're jumping back to my problem with Superman Returns.
Okay.
Now let me explain. In Superman Returns, the last Superman offering that we had,
yes,
we had Brandon Routh, who was perfectly serviceable Superman.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with Brandon Routh.
Nope.
Bryan Singer, who I usually love everything he does.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was really trying to homage and continue the Richard Donner saga there. In fact, it was a direct sequel to Superman 2.
Yeah, it takes place a couple of years after the events of Superman 2.
And the premise being that Superman has left Earth for 5 years and is coming back after trying to find Krypton.
Yeah.
And Lois is remarried and there's a kid.
Yeah.
Now, a few things wrong with this in my opinion. Really messing with the mythology after we haven't had a Superman movie for a while.
Yeah.
Like, James Marsden's character in that, the presumed baby daddy.
Yeah.
He's not in any of the comics, that guy. He's not a part of Superman's universe.
Okay.
Like Lois, as far as I know, we've already established I'm not the biggest Superman scholar, but
he's friends with Bryan Singer.
Well, that's all well and good, but why are you having Lois like shacked up with somebody else in your first Superman movie in a very long time? That's my problem.
Because Superman had to return.
Yeah, well,
or you could just do something like this where you kind of go back to basics and not have him return.
That's kind of more. I think it's good that Man of Steel's happening for that reason, and especially if they're wanting to do a Justice League movie. But so real quick, one of my other big problems with Superman Returns is that it's already been the events of Superman 2, and then he leaves for 5 years and comes back.
Right.
We're supposed to believe that Lois is a mom and a seasoned reporter.
Who has won Pulitzer Prizes.
Right.
And such.
And then you cast Kate Bosworth, who
looks like she's just out of college.
Yeah, I mean she's a fine actress and she's adorable.
Yeah.
And I think she can act the part, but she really looks like she's 17 years old and does not look like Lois Lane to me. She doesn't look like that tough, dogged, plucky reporter,
Right. Whereas in Man of Steel, since we're basically being introduced to Superman and this is the beginning of everything, it's okay if she starts off as a little younger,
Right.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. No, that doesn't make sense. That wasn't particularly a problem for me with the return of Superman, Superman Returns.
It wasn't the deal breaker of the movie for me. It was an accumulation of factors, but that was one of them.
Right. No, I definitely recognize that and acknowledge it, and I agree with you somewhat. Again, it just didn't bother me, but I do recognize it. Yeah, no, Man of Steel looks like it's going to be a nice little return form for Mr. Superman. Looks going to be, epic, some super battles going on here.
Yeah.
We're going to actually see Superman do some things in this one. He didn't really do a lot in Superman Returns, if I recall
No,
correctly.
he saves a plane. That's the most exciting thing.
He does save the plane.
That's a really good scene.
It's a really great scene. It's probably the best scene in the whole movie. The reintroduction of his character was friggin' epic and incredibly well done. But aside from that, I think he takes a bullet to the eye and then he lifts the island at the end. But for the most part,
and gets the crap kicked out of him by Spacey as Luthor,
which is fantastic. And
Spacey.
Now fly. So long, Superman. No, I thought Kevin Spacey being cast as Lex Luthor was fantastic.
Oh, it was great. That was the best part of the movie for me.
No, absolutely. No,
him and Parker Posey.
Oh, Parker Posey.
Just because I love Parker Posey.
Oh, what's not to love about Parker Posey? She's one of the oddest actresses in the world, but we do love her. So, Man of Steel, we're looking forward to it. It looks promising.
Yeah.
Let's just hope they don't trip before the finish line.
Indeed. What else is out there?
We saw a trailer for Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh, yes, we did, yep.
Yeah, that looks good.
It does look good.
It looks very Dark Knight-esque.
Yeah.
It's, the poster is, very Dark Knight-like, with, Benedict Cumberbatch standing in the wreckage of a Federation city, and the wreckage is the outline of the Starfleet symbol, you know, so there, you got that going. So basically, it's a sort of a criminal warrior, general, mercenary type person that has come into this culture and destroys everything, and now these group of survivors, played by the Enterprise crew, are presumably the only ones left, have to take him down. Sounds a little like Dark Knight Rises to me, actually.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, Bane comes in, he's just this force of nature from out of nowhere, completely takes over Gotham, and it's up to, Batman and like a few other people. They gotta kind of get it together and get rid of this. Again, this basically it's all focused on a lone figure. So in Dark Knight Rises, you had Bane, and this one you have Jonathan Harrison.
Jonathan Harrison.
The
dreaded Jonathan Harrison.
Jonathan Harrison was finally revealed by Paramount yesterday that that's the character he would be playing. Which, when they announced the character's name, research was done by folks on the internet, wiser and geekier than myself, that Jonathan Harrison was nearly suffocated to death by Khan in the episode of Star Trek called Space Seed. Now, how that ties into what they're doing here with Star Trek Into Darkness, not entirely sure.
Now it's been suggested already that they're pulling a Miranda Tate here, that they're calling him one thing,
right,
and really he's going to be another thing.
He could be Khan at the end.
Right, because especially being that we've seen that he's superhuman, and Khan is a superhuman.
Yes, he is superhuman. You see him in the trailer. He's swinging around a huge pipe thing. He's very strong. Don't get me wrong. Like I make comparisons to The Dark Knight Rises, and that's all well and good. They exist, but I think the movie looks like it's going to be incredible fun. Some good action going on here. You get to see some new exotic locales. You get a great villain in Benedict Cumberbatch.
Jonathan Harrison.
Jonathan Harrison. I don't care what they call him. He looks like
the tyranny of Jonathan Harrison.
He looks like he's going to be one hell of an intimidating villain. So I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
My only concern is separating him in my head from Sherlock, because that's just who he is to me now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But from what we've seen in the trailer, he looks like he's being devious and devilish enough. And,
he'll make a great villain.
Absolutely. And I don't think we'll have a hard time separating him from Sherlock when we see him in one of the Hobbit movies eventually, because he'll be a giant dragon in that.
Oh, that's right. He is going to be Smaug.
Yeah,
I forgot
he's
about
the voice
that.
of Smaug. That's pretty cool. You've heard that voice. I think that'd be very good.
He will be good as Smaug.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness, again, loving to see the old, cast back together, the old new cast, I should say. Because I really like the original J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie that he did. Chris Pine was a great Kirk. Zachary Quinto was a fantastic Spock.
Fine Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana as the new and improved Uhura. And
Zoe Uhura.
Zoe Uhura. And even Judge Dredd there as Dr. McCoy is fantastically cast. No, just a really great, solid Trekkie cast all around. And
absolutely.
With the introduction of a new, intense-looking villain played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and then the introduction of a very pretty blonde lady whom was just revealed to be Carol Marcus, which, if any of you have any Star Trek knowledge, know that Kirk eventually mates with Carol Marcus, and then they conceive a demon spawn known as David. No, he's not a demon spawn. They have a kid together. His name is David, and then it doesn't work out, and they separate. Well, it is sci-fi, so you have to look this in terms of species. I don't know. Shut up.
Just following the Prime Directive.
Exactly. So they get together and they copulate. That's still just as technical as saying mating. When you say that. They get together and they fuck. Anyway, whoops.
F-bomb drop.
F-bomb
we haven't seen
drop.
any Klingons yet.
Apparently, if you pause the trailer in a correct moment, you see that one of the people that Benedict Slapdyback is fighting is actually a Klingon.
Oh, okay.
Because the Klingons are supposed to be a part of the story.
Right, because at this point I'm not much of a Trekkie, but as far as I remember, at this point in the history, the Federation's still at war with them, right?
Yes. The Federation has never been, in full, constant, outright war with the Klingons.
It's more like, you guys are over there, we're over here.
Exactly.
We have hostilities.
We have hostilities, but you stay on your side of the fence. But, invasions happen all the time, and, attacks did happen. And so it might as well have been a war, but that's why there was the construction of, not the construction, but the mapping out of what is known as the neutral zone. Basically, you stay on your side of the zone, we stay on ours. Anybody that crosses into that neutral zone, that's an act of war. Or, so we're going to fly our ships into it and be like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing in here? But, yeah, it was never outright war per se, but it was open hostility, and it wasn't until the events of Star Trek VI where a peace treaty was finally signed. But that's enough geekiness for one podcast.
No, wait, say something in Klingon.
Tach ba, tach bech, which means to be or not to be. So not only was I speaking Klingon, I was quoting Shakespeare in Klingon. Shut up. Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about anything else. We're done here. Goodbye. No, I'm kidding. No, we'll give you a proper farewell. I've been your host, Greg McIver, and with me has been...
Whoa, Zany Antics of Nicky Boom Boom!
Oh, my word! We'll catch you next time.